Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Geek to me radio, da 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 da. Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio, episode 246. Today we'll be talking with director-producer Scott Zakarin all about his projects, especially Superhero Diaries Season 2, which you'll be able to find on YouTube, all the fun he's having making that, and their special guest star for this season. All that and more, stand by. We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek from Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all. And for those of you finding us online, perhaps for the first time, welcome to Geek to Me Radio. I'm your host, James Enstall. Each week, we try to bring you a brand new guest from the world of pop culture, which includes TV, comics, movies, and video games. This week, we've got director-producer Scott Zakarin. You might know him because we've heard his name before with projects like Rideshare, the series, and Superhero Diaries. And now they're back with a second installment of Superhero Diaries, and we were able to sit down and talk with him about that project. Right now we're talking with Scott Zakarin all about Superhero Diaries Season 2. If you've seen Season 1, you know how funny and fun and engaging it was. They're coming back for a second season. Scott, how are you?
I'm good.
I talked a little bit with James Gavsey about it, and Season 1 of Superhero Diaries, he said, was kind of more or less a beta test to kind of see how it went, and the reaction was huge, so obviously it made sense to do a second season. Talk a little bit about what fans of the first season might expect to see that's different in the second season.
We basically shot Season 1 during COVID, right? So in order to do that, we basically said, everybody, all the actors will have green screens, they'll have mics, they'll throw up their own lights, and they'll do their own thing, and then we have to make it all work together. And so this is one of the reasons why it's sort of our beta season. You know, in some ways we're calling this the beginning of the show, because this is the first time we've been able to break out and go outside and have the actors playing around with each other and making out, not the actors, you and me, and wrestling with each other and playing and using superpowers and all the kind of things that add a different kind of verisimilitude to the character that we haven't had before. You know, it was the most effects we had was the spider webs. You know, we were really, so now we've ratcheted up. We shot this thing on beautiful 8K red cameras, and we got a great DP. And the actors, we added to the cast to really have a team. So this particular season starts at Batman's guest house. When he has guests, they need a guest house. So it's the guest house.
Okay.
And that partially explains why we're not in a mansion when Batman has everybody over to hang out, right? Because we couldn't afford the mansion in our budget.
Yeah.
We can do Avengers things, but we can't do a mansion. No, we had so now it's an opportunity for them to really get a sense to see the characters interact with each other. We also got some very interesting character actors. As you know, Phil LaMarr has been so gracious as to, for the first time ever, put on the Green Lantern costume, the same character he plays in the Justice League, I believe, Justice League Unlimited. And, he is the guy. He's the voice of the character. So the fact that he did it was amazing. And I think one of the reasons is back when he first came to LA, and I came to LA, I gave him one of his first acting roles.
Oh, nice.
Right. So he was it was a sexual harassment training film, and he got sexually harassed by his boss at the fast food restaurant.
You never forget your first time. So that's
you never. Just to make it really wonderful, I had a Playboy playmate was the person who harassed him. Now she was an actress.
Yeah.
In this case, she played a harasser, and Phil had to go complain to the boss. So we're going to have folks like that. We have Patrick Bristow, who is sitcom star, improv genius, and also one of the guys who, when he came out to LA, I gave him a role very early on. So it pays to do that. It also pays to go to the Groundling shows and scout, it turned out.
Right.
Or close. So the difference they're going to see is people really interacting with each other in the room. Mm-hmm. Like we did a Catwoman video with Batman. He was in Texas. She was in LA. And, we're all over the place. And it's great that we have that opportunity to be able to shoot without, a problem. But boy, did it take a long time.
Yeah.
Also, so the actors, and also because you're dealing with green screen issues. And then, without professional lighters, we're constantly trying to make it so they don't look translucent and things like that. We don't have a problem now.
Yeah.
Now we have a really fun storyline with really good character actors. Some of them, like the guy who plays Captain America, Joe, looks like he could be Captain America. He comes out, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah. Suddenly, actually, a buddy of mine called up and said, I thought you cut real footage into the video for a second.
That's a pretty good compliment.
Footage, I was a little bit like, well, what do you mean by that?
And you mentioned improv. That really showed in the first season. I know James and I talked about it and how some of the takes were just stuff that they actually came up with. You kind of let them riff a little bit and end up making some of that into the original. So is there still that same leeway with the actors? Do you kind of give them that improv kind of area to play with? Yeah,
I would say yes. I love that feeling of real time. There are certain lines you could not write unless you were having a conversation for real. And they pull certain things out that I never expected. Don Jeans, that plays Batman, comes up with things and then he takes off his mask and costume. He's this, again, a Hollywood-looking handsome guy. He is a proof that you can wear a costume and still keep it a secret identity.
Yeah.
So that's not the question you asked. So as far as improv, I would supply them with bullet points, some lines, and things like that, and then we would get on there and we sort of craft together, which was very similar to this. It was nice to be able to actually, be in their arms, or have them in my arms and be able to do it that way.
Yeah.
But I would be remiss if I said, no, only my words for something like this. And yes, that's the basic idea. So when people ask me if I wrote it, I said, well, I'm more of a scenarist. Is that how you say scenarioist? Is that a term?
Yeah, it is now.
No, it is now. So, so I would have I know the storyline, I know the plotting, but in the end of the day, there are many writers, which is the same thing as you would say in a sitcom, right? In the end of the day, one person gets the credit, but a whole bunch of people sat in a room.
Right, yeah.
Right? Along with the people in the set, we know what we're going to do, but we have a lot of fun doing it because it's always fresh. And the only challenge about improv is sometimes, cutting wise, you have to really come up with escapes. But we shoot with 2 cameras, make sure comedy, I would always recommend, by the way, for you young filmmakers out there, always shoot comedy with 2 cameras if you can. Unless you have a particular style, and so what. But if you really want to capture people and you want to get those real-time reactions, nothing like it.
I would assume that having everyone in the same building kind of filming as you go, as opposed to getting them to do it separately, sped the process up. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, it definitely sped the process up. It also sped up the process of editing. So yes, it speeds it up, but we're still, like we did a shoot in LA that we just shot, and we shot live. And that's what the first episode is with the Green Lantern advice video. It's the same thing. If we were to if as we have a cast, that means all those costumes have to be figured out. Where are we putting them? Normally that'd be easy. You have a wardrobe person, a prop person, things like that. We very skeleton about this. But so there are tons of things that we missed because we were, moving fast, and we ran into all these issues. Props, things weren't dressed and things like that. So we had to shoot around it. We had to edit around it. I don't think anybody will notice that. But, based on the logic of they won't miss it if they don't see it. But by all means, there is a different way. You can keep the same tone and same style and things like that, but there's definitely a lot of differences between shooting with each other. We're actually shooting on Monday at Muscle Beach.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just because I'm working out.
Okay, got you. Yeah, the first season was so fun. I can only imagine with the improv and the actors in the same room, I think the fun would also be ratcheted up a little bit, too, if they're all actually able to interact. We're going to pause right there, come back, and continue our chat with director-producer Scott Zakarin. Please stand by.
Ain't no monster clown who is as lovable
as ever-loving Hulk. Hulk, Hulk.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman. You're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. This segment brought to you by our official movie sponsor, Marcus Theaters. Marcus Theaters and, of course, Movie Tavern. You can go to the website, marcustheaters.com, to check out the movies that are playing. With the Movie Tavern edition, there are a bunch of states in which you can find one of these great places to go see a movie. And we recommend you go see a movie. Don't just sit at home and stream them. Get out in the way, see them the way they're supposed to be seen, with a big bucket of popcorn and a huge soda that you know you're not going to finish, and enjoy the movie in the dark theater. Lean the seats back, hit the little seat warmers where they have them if applicable, and just have a good time at the movie theaters. That's the way these movies were meant to be seen. Movies like Black Widow, movies like Suicide Squad, the upcoming Shang-Chi, and not just Marvel movies, obviously. A lot of other movies out there to be seen right now. You can view them all on the website, marcustheaters.com. So obviously find the location closest to you, see what movie you want to see, buy your tickets right there, and they usually have specials running too you might be able to take advantage of while you're on the website. Sign up for their magical movie reward, so you actually get rewarded for going to see movies and for getting concessions. You'll get points that you can use towards concessions, free movie tickets, and they usually have contests and things like that going. It's really just a good deal all around. There's not a better place to see a movie, and I know I've seen movies in a lot of different theaters from a lot of different companies. Marcus Theaters has just updated the Mid-Rivers Mall location. Just earlier this year, we had a screening there for the new Jason Statham movie. It's just head and shoulders above the rest. There's not a better place to see a movie, and if you want to experience that same level, go to marcustheaters.com, find the location closest to you, and also download the app for your smartphone, and you can get your concessions, get your tickets right through the app. marcustheaters.com is the website, once again, the official movie sponsor of Geek to Me Radio. Before we took that last break, we were chatting with Scott Zakarin about with Superhero Diaries this time, since COVID restrictions have been lifted, having all the actors together in person.
Yes, and they were interacting, and actually some of them would go off on the side. Like I wrote a Spider-Man parody song. It was basically Spider-Man trying to serenade the various ladies and try and and they all treat him like a kid. But our actor actually played. Right, so he sang. He was a guy, a theater guy. I'm not answering your question, am I?
No, you are. Yeah, I asked if it was more fun. You said this is kind of you're getting there. Yes, that's answering the question. Yes.
So it's fun being, and so we had Spider-Man doing that serenade, and then he and the other Spider-Man, Miles Morales and Peter Parker, got together and they sang together, and it was magic. Now I wrote the song. They made it better. They went and they made it better. And honestly, they're like, oh, should we check these things? I'm like, no, why don't you do it and see how I feel about it? And then if we have to change back. And, a lot of it is, I've been directing, not to date myself too much, but I will. I've been directing for over 40 years.
Wow.
And I've never done a film I've done commercials that were expensive, but I've never done a movie that was over $1 million. I never did a show that was, everything I've done has been very tight. And the reason is because I like shooting. I like small. I like no politics.
Yeah.
There's always politics. You put a few people in the room. But I like not having a bunch of executives hanging out over our shoulders and feeling inhibited by that. So instead it's like, how do we make the best thing? Forget about the politics. Forget about, how do we go out there? And a lot of it is like, hey, kids, let's put on a show. And I think everybody had a really good time. I also think there's a certain childhood fantasy aspect of being able to sort of dress up as these
Absolutely.
Anybody cosplay, trick-or-treating, whatever, but they get to actually embody our parody version of the superheroes.
And we've had Phil on the show before, and it's one of those people I always appreciate and love voice actors. And there's certain people, because I'm a comic book fan too, so when you read comic books, certain voices stick in your head. Phil will always be the voice of Jon Stewart. So that had to be, I would think, knowing Phil, I would say, he must have had a huge amount of fun putting on the actual suit and being Green Lantern, not just voicing, but also landing him for that role is a major coup.
It was a coup. I actually was surprised that he agreed. I was like one of those, hey, man, I know this is probably, I'd like to get you involved in one way or another. It doesn't obviously, the Green Lantern thing, we don't have to do that. We can create another character. He's like, well, I don't know. Let's do the Green Lantern thing. I was like, that was very exciting. So, yes, it was a coup, and also shows you in Hollywood, you remember people. So always be nice to people.
Yeah.
Always remember that they are insecure and they're putting themselves out there in a way that makes them vulnerable. I'm not in front of the camera. I don't want to be in front of the camera. So if you saw one of our videos, I played the Atom. So
very nice.
But they changed the voice a little bit because, I realized everything starts from Mickey Mouse. Hi there. And got Tally. I want to get high. And you think about it, we all sound the same.
Yeah.
But to speak to you, I have a tremendous respect for voice-over actors, the cartoon voice-over actors. Some of the most talented people I've ever worked with. I did a movie called Comic Book the Movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard about that. So we worked with Jess Harnell and Billy West and Roger Rose and Mark Hamill and Tom Kenny, who's SpongeBob. So we worked with those guys who are so fast. They belong right here on the crew. The problem is that, there's not a lot of 60-year-old superheroes, and that's what we all are.
Right.
So, not me. I'm 27, but those guys.
Right, exactly. Everyone else. You mentioned your previous projects too. How was working with William Shatner? How did you find that whole experience?
It was overall great. I really admire and respect Bill. We did some cool things. We won the first Streamy together.
Oh wow!
Which best. So we won for reality podcaster. So we actually won the first Streamy that was ever awarded. Huh. Which was kind of fun, going out there and saying, so I thank the Academy. I don't know what that. But so your question is Shatner. Shatner is, it was up and down, not because we didn't necessarily get along, but not necessarily, we had different goals for it. And the other thing is, even though, I have my personal relationship with Bill, which unfortunately, isn't strong at the moment. But I always will love Captain Kirk.
Oh, sure.
There's only one Captain Kirk. I don't care. Chris Pine's a fun actor. He's fine. He makes a great Steve Trevor. But William Shatner is Captain Kirk.
I agree.
So he's still my childhood, hero, even though I worked with him.
Yeah.
I have I don't know if I worked with Stan Lee on many projects.
I do remember that, yes.
To work with a childhood hero like that and to have sort of a mutual respect, we had a great time together. I love that guy. We once drove over to San Diego Comic-Con from LA and we got stuck in traffic and we just spent 5 hours talking about everything. This is not your question.
No, but see, I love these stories because like I said, that's why I always kind of let my guest kind of take the reins and steer the conversation because we end up with gems like that. Being stuck in a car for 5 hours with Stan Lee would be a dream for most people. And we will take our very next commercial break, and we'll come right back continuing our chat with Scott Zakarin. Please stand by.
Guys, look out! Here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud. He's got radioactive blood.
Hey, this is Phil LaMarr.
Hermes Conrad.
The samurai known as Jack. And you're listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio. Chatting for this entire hour with Scott Zakarin, director and producer, in this case, directing and producing Superhero Diaries Season 2, and we just got to chatting about different stuff because obviously this is kind of his world, his realm as well, and he just started talking about how he was stuck in a car with Stan Lee for 4 hours. Now, little stories like this that I love to talk about with guests.
It was for me, honestly, because there's a lot. Look, I don't just idolize what he's created. I also idolize how he deals with Community. I dealt with Community. God rest his soul. I tried to emulate a lot of that. And I kind of taught him how to do that in new media, so we were able to sort of grow together a little bit in that area. And this was the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man had just come out. I was actually his date for the screening. And, when I was talking to him, we were talking about philosophy. We were talking how, what we believe comes after life. We were talking about, art. And it was like, we barely talked about comic books, although he did tell me I do have some great stories if you ever want to do it for another interview.
Yeah, we probably should.
Stories, yeah. He was quite the character, and there was two different stands. There was the guy who would make believe he was humble and really be blustery that he did on the set. It's like, well, I created Spider-Man. I didn't have anything to do that day, so turns out it's huge. No, I'm not quoting Stan there. I'm just remembering the kind of thing. And then Owen, he was much more contemplative and I got to know the real guy, which was wonderful, really a wonderful experience. And I actually working with Bill, and that was a wonderful experience too. I mean, I've worked with a lot of really, really talented people, and I would rather do that than make $150 million movie and feel like I'm going to have a stroke any second.
Yeah.
So
I think those experiences you have with certain people are worth their weight in gold anyway. Absolutely. I got, it wasn't, look, if somebody said to me, I can do the reboot of Superman and here's $150 million, I would be there by the sentence being ended. So not to say that they're not doing an okay job with it, but Superman, the movie, Christopher Reeve, man. That's still the gold standard.
He is, man. He didn't even have to do this. He just had a different kind of gravitas. See, the story's going another way. Never met Christopher Reeve, so I don't have any stories that are real. I can make one up.
Again, we might save that for another interview.
Okay. It has to do with me flying and singing to him about reading my mind.
That I think I've somewhere seen that before. I can't place where, but it'll come to me. So
yeah, well, this was with me.
With you, though. So now Margot Kidder. She might be a little upset that you replaced her in this scenario.
The Superman curse, huh?
But going back again to Superhero Diaries, I imagine that there must have been, knowing that you're getting a second season, a lot of ideas floating around. Okay, what do we want to do? How do we do things differently? Is it still an evolving process? You haven't shot every episode of it yet, so are there still things that you're still tweaking and adding as it goes, or you pretty much have the final vision locked in?
The first one. I shot an arc. I have a story arc. We shot a lot of it at one time in LA, but then I'm filling in a lot of gaps and doing other episodes in between, and I'm trying to turn things so that they connect better. And I'm also turning things based on audience interaction. Right? I want to be very responsive to the audience. We love our fans. I love interactivity. I've been doing it since 1995. I'll send you a reel of mine. You'll see I was in this stuff since I was a child.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'd love to see that.
It's posted now.
And obviously the other project that really kind of, I think, drew me in was Rideshare, the series, which was just phenomenal. And you had Eric Marcelf in that. Are there any plans to do another stage of that at all?
My dream for that is to make it into a movie. Okay, I could see definitely do another scene, but we'd be on there, and Eric looks just like the character. That's why we used him. He played Booster Gold, by the way.
Yeah.
At Smallville. Yeah. So I think it will make a hell of a movie, and I will crank things up because a lot of that is hard when you're doing a visual podcast or just a straight audio podcast. It's hard to translate a gunfight. Right. So you end up doing things and then you say it. You have to be too literal, and I think the movie would do really well with some subtleties. I could also heighten up the action.
It's almost like if you were to make it a movie, I feel like I've already read the book, and now I'd get to see it on the big screen, because the art that you guys had for the YouTube portion was really engaging.
We had two very good artists, and James did a really good job, managing the visual process with my audio process.
So we had James Gavsey and Ray Stacanis get a cameo in Rideshare. Will they be appearing in season 2 of Superhero Diaries?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to spoil anything. I'll just, knowing that they're out there, I'll watch for it to come, because I'm sure it'll be great.
You'll probably be in it now. Anybody I meet, it's like, hey, James, I'm filming you right now. You're in.
Great, perfect. I would love to.
What you want to be, if you could be any superhero?
Batman's obviously my favorite, but if I had to pick another, Booster Gold's great. I love, actually, Ted Kord's Blue Beetle is one of my all-time favorites, the Ted Kord version. So that I think I could pull that off. So just putting it out there, I can send you my demo reel when you send me yours, and we can kind of see where things go.
Right. So I can act too. I can act like I'm hungry, if I'm tired. I can act like,
Yeah. My wife says I act lazy all the time, so who knows? It's all acting. So, and what else? So, how long do you think the process will take? Do you guys have an end date wrap? This is when we want everything done by, or are you kind of just letting it flow without having that harsh, no, we have to have everything done by this date? It's that time for another commercial break. We're going to pause. We'll come right back, so don't go anywhere.
You'll behold in breathless wonder the God of thunder, mighty Thor.
Hi, this is Neil Ross, the voice of a plethora of animation and game characters. One of them would be the Green Goblin in Spider-Man, who reminds you...
You're listening to Geek to Me Radio!
Welcome back to Geek to Me Radio, the show that would not be possible without the support of our premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. Of course, the website, discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com, as we always say, and historically good time. This upcoming weekend, they're doing their bicentennial celebration of the St. Charles. That's a lot of activities going on down there. You can check out some recreations of the a mock Senate trial, as well as some other interesting characters you might find up and down the streets. They always do these festivals, and they're always so much fun. Obviously, Legends and Lanterns right around the corner with Halloween coming up, and then Christmas Traditions not far on its heels. But even if it's not a festival day, the weather is so beautiful this week. Get out and enjoy it. Go bike ride the Katy Trail. Just go out and have a picnic in the park. You can look around the old train depot. All sorts of stuff to do in there. And if you don't want to bring your food, maybe stop off on some of these little eateries along the way, get some food, and then go eat it in the park. It's a great time to visit St. Charles. Not that there's ever a bad time. Obviously, they've been around for over 250 years, and there's always something. I'm still discovering new things every time I go. You can go to the website, check it out, and see what you can discover at discoverstcharles.com. If you're from out of town, if you're local here, there's always something new, always something fun to see, and a lot of fun things to do. Once again, that website, discoverstcharles.com. As we always say, it's an historically good time. Before we took that last break, we were chatting with Scott Zakarin about Superhero Diaries, and if there was already a wrap date for Season 2, are they still filming? What kind of the production schedule looks like for this?
Well, we're Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the episodes are going to be a bigger episodes. Some of them are going to be like Harley Quinn and Black Widow go to the movie premiere. Right? So there's going to be things that we're going to just capture the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. Right? So that's a big part of it, too. If the world changes, we change.
Yeah.
We didn't mention COVID. We mentioned sequestering in Season 1, but we didn't get into that.
Right.
I don't want to why, they have to get into Superman getting a shot, which could be funny, but I'm very careful about, for the most part, about staying out of politics when it comes to, not in real life, but when it comes to the show. So
you have to use a red kryptonite needle, I guess, to inject Superman so it temporarily removes his powers, but doesn't.
Is that one? Was it red kryptonite turns him into stuff, right?
No, I'm thinking gold kryptonite's the one that takes away his powers. Yeah, red has weird effects. So, yeah.
Do they still have those in the comic books? I haven't really read.
the new 52 had a different type of kryptonite, but now that the Rebirth, I haven't read much of the Superman Rebirth. I've been so focused on Batman and Detective in Rebirth that I haven't seen if they've introduced any of the other ones. But they had they had rainbow kryptonite, black kryptonite that they actually used in Smallville. So I don't think they've used them as much in the comic books. They kind of stuck more towards just the green generic kryptonite.
Right. Now we have different colored Green Lanterns.
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
So I'm yellow Green Lantern. I'm blue Green Lantern.
Blue green. I guess if you combine the two, that's actually the perfect combination.
Yellow, right. Yeah. If I had a yellow Green Lantern and blue Green Lantern, I'd be back on track. James Enstall is blue Green Lantern.
I don't know. That seems a little confusing now. They should have kept the primary colors, because if yellow and green team up, that's kind of,
It's crazy.
Yeah. That's kind
Who knows what.
And here we go down this rabbit hole of like primary colors. Should they have done this? But that's another. So that's another thing. How much of the peripheral superhero stuff do you guys try to stay mostly to the main? You've seen in the first season, you've seen Deadpool and Wonder Woman, Catwoman, Batman. How much of the periphery are you going to go? Like James Gunn's Suicide Squad, we're getting Polka Dot Man, for crying out loud. Are you bringing in some abstract characters like Condiment King or anybody like that?
No, though that is a future plan.
Okay.
And I have Easter eggs in the show that if you look at them, you kind of see some of those characters who are going to be coming out. But so I do want to use obscure. I also, I came 2 inches away from using Barney, the purple dinosaur. And I said, okay, that's too complicated. So I'm using Mr. Bill.
Okay.
Hey, Mr. Bill. Another one who sounds like that.
It does. Voice is right.
And it's going to crush him in her bare hands. So Mr. Bill, by the way, for you kids out there, is a Saturday Night Live sketch that became very popular for 12 minutes.
That's right. Little clay guy who just always got rolled over. And actually,
hey, Mr. You sound like Mr. Hackney.
You could have used Barney as an indigo lantern. So you could have had the crossover.
Somebody copyright that fast. So, yeah, so the idea is to bring in, without going too far into it, we will have some anime. We will have some, we're probably not going to do any of the space stuff because that might be a future project. But, we would do anime, Power Rangers, that kind of thing. And some characters that you would be like scratching your head over, but I think I can make work.
That's the main, especially it's got to be easier to make it work now that, like I said, you've got everybody there and you've got kind of a centralized idea for what's going to happen.
One of the hardest aspects of this is getting costumes in time. Right. So a lot of our costumes are fairly crappy. Like we bought the best you can get from like a costume shop,
right.
Did mostly on Amazon because Amazon is Amazon and has free returns.
That's true.
So we end up, so this way I was like, okay, I don't know if the actor is a large or extra large, get them both, return the one that doesn't fit kind of thing. But the, it's funny because the Green Arrow costume is terrific and I got it for half the price. And that just shows you, man, you can get Green Arrow costumes all day long, try and get, Batman costumes and there's 20 different versions
right.
And the ones are hard to get. And most of the stuff comes, a lot of the stuff comes out of China. Right. So if you want to design really good costumes and I don't want to wait 4 weeks and not be sure whether it's coming.
Yeah.
We're going to be a little bit more thoughtful in how we get these costumes made. We did one costume. It's like, okay, we have Ms. Marvel. I literally had somebody make the Ms. Marvel costume over the weekend.
Wow.
Which is crazy because most people are like, okay, it's going to take a few weeks to make it, and it's going to take a few weeks to ship it, and things like that. But I have a person who is, wonderful at it, and now I have to figure out, the economics. Because Batman's got to have a great costume.
Yeah,
he's basically our version of Batman. Our parody version of Batman is pretty much a central character, and will continue to be in this season. For various reasons. And then you may notice Superman isn't in there.
That's right.
Watch and find out, kids.
Okay. See, there's the teaser. I love it. So for those of you listening, Superhero Diaries, you can catch it on YouTube. Where else can people keep up with you if they want to check out more of your stuff? And on that note, we'll take our last commercial break. We'll come right back and wrap up our chat with Scott Zakarin. Please stand by.
Hi, this is George Newbern, the voice of Superman. You are listening to Geek to Me Radio.
Welcome back for our final segment here on Geek to Me Radio. Wrapping up, we're just kind of chatting with Scott Zakarin about, we want to make sure we get out all the information if you want to keep up with social media or if you want to check out Superhero Diaries and kind of see what there is and dig into it a little bit more, where you can find Scott and his projects online.
The Digital Sky is our major site, that's where you find Rideshare and you find some of the original podcasts we did, which were like Black Mirror kind of thing. We also are putting it right now. Superhero Diaries is on Facebook, is on TikTok. There's various, versions of them. So we want to be wherever you go. YouTube is something I'm very familiar with. I have just on YouTube, I have a couple of billion views as a producer. So it's a comfortable, world for me. Although every time I turn around, they're changing the rules.
Yeah.
And it's to keep up with, right? So, I think that there's right now a certain amount of flight to quality happening online. Most people who I know watch it for videos to show them how to do things. That's just phenomenal. Makeup, tons of wonderful people, and you have a meritocracy of the whole planet. So it's terrific. But the straight influencer, I don't think, but. So, I've used influencers in the past as a way of helping promote us, but right now, I don't even look at the people's socials. I want best actors.
Yeah, makes sense.
I want improv actors. I want funny actors. I want actors that look like movie stars. I don't want to do hey guys, make sure you hit subscribe and all that. Although I do that too. But,
right. But yeah, it's a different vibe from what you're going for.
Exactly. So, and then things like Stan Lee's Mutants, Monsters, Marvels is out there available. That's, I believe, for me, that's the timepiece of Stan Lee really sitting down and talking to Kevin Smith. My IMDb, you'll see a bunch of my stuff. But the best way to really reach me is through my Facebook. Just Scott Zakarin mentioned me, message me right on the Facebook. That's a good place. I don't really communicate other than, usual email aspects, but that's probably the best place to get me. And if you're, you're an actor or you're a creative person, or you want to collab, or you just want to tell me that what you thought of the show, like or don't like it. I like the ones that like it better, right. But I want to hear what everybody has to say. And it's interesting, the things that people say, and definitely people have noticed the upgrade in the new costumes and things like that.
Yeah, it's a marked difference.
Our overall survey score went up.
It's almost like Gilligan's Island. They went from black and white to color. It's like, wow, it kind of just takes it up to that next level.
I cannot believe you went Gilligan's Island when the Adventures of Superman was sitting right there in front of you.
Sorry, that's...
Geek are you?
But
saying switched.
I was going from the periphery. Again, I was trying to pull from the little more obscure rather than go down the mainstream. So it's all in that periphery. That's why I like to live.
Right. What? I stand corrected.
But, Scott Zakarin, again, Superhero Diaries, check it out. Make sure you go to the website. Follow them on Instagram. There's a Twitter account. He's at TikTok. And watch the YouTube series, because Season 1 was hilarious. Season 2, you got Phil LaMarr, so it's going to be even more brilliant than the first season. Scott Zakarin, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, my brother. I look forward to meeting you one day. Are you going to be at the cons now that we can go out?
Actually, I'm doing Terrificon in Connecticut on the East Coast at the end of this month, and then I'm scheduled to do Unicon in Las Vegas the first weekend of October.
Is that in person?
Yes.
All right, man.
Yeah, so I usually try to do 4 or 5 cons a year because I get most of my content from there. But that's one of the things between Comic Cons and movie theaters, 2 of the things I missed the most during the pandemic.
Well, James Enstall, you gave a great interview, and I really do look forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully so. And congratulations again on the success. And like I said, have you back on anytime you'd like.
Thanks, brother. Really appreciate it.
That's going to do it for us. Another show in the books. My thanks, as always, to Joey V, who makes this show sound as good as it does. every single time. Thanks to my guest, Scott Zakarin, and of course, thanks to James Gavsey for setting up the interview and arranging that. Check out the Who Would Win show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. It's a lot of fun, though. We've had him on the show before, and it's always a good time there as well. And thank you to you for listening and for tuning in each week. Until then, my friends.
It's not in the way you watch I zombie. It's not in the way you watch The Flash. It's not in the way you love Scotty Young Arts. It's not in the way you play Mario Kart. It's not in the way you look when you make Game of Thrones references. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio. That's our show. This is Geek to Me Radio.
Thank you, Justice League headquarters. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
Bit.ly/geek to me. Bit.ly/geek to me.